Good afternoon, everybody. Great to be with you again. Brad Macbeth here with the Simple Plan Live. Welcome back. We are in the midst of our 7-week series from Don't Worry, Retire Happy. That is the 7 steps to retirement security. And today we're looking at step 4, the danger of inflation. Now that seems a pretty timely topic considering how inflation has reared its ugly head. It's been so quiet for so long. It's like we'd almost forgotten about it, but we are back up at levels that haven't been seen for decades. The United States is looking at, their last reading was 8.6%. That's in the period ended just a few weeks ago in May. And Canada is probably not far behind. We haven't got the May readings yet, but the trending in April was well up over 6. I expect we're probably going to be over 7 now. And with no end in sight, and inflation tends to go hand in hand with interest rates, which now that inflation is so high, interest rates are going to go up to try to combat that inflation. And indeed they have gone up. They just went up a record, not a record, but for the first time in 28 years, they went up by 3/4 of a basis point, or sorry, 75 basis points, 0.75% in the United States. Canada's next interest rate announcement is not due for another 4 weeks or so. So we'll find out then, but I expect that they will likely follow suit with a 0.75% or 75 basis points increase. It gets talked about as a lot of doom and gloom. It's doom and gloom for people with debt. It's difficult for some mortgage holders if they're renewing now or if they're on variable rates. And we've always advocated not to use variable rates, even though historically over long periods of time, generally you will end up with an on average lower interest rate by getting the variable interest rate. But we know that people function much better in their finances the more certainty and control they can put in there. So if it's at all reasonable, it's really best for your personal finances to go with fixed interest rates. So stay tuned. Things are going to get challenging. So here's our 7 steps just to remind you of the journey we're on. We've been through the first 3 weeks there of having a plan for retirement, maximizing your government benefits in the CPP and OAS, considering a hybrid retirement. We looked at that last week. Today, we're going to be talking about protecting your savings from inflation, why that's so essential. Next week, we're going to look at securing guaranteed retirement income, how you can put guarantees around you to ensure that you will not run out of money when you're retired, which is the #1 financial concern of all Canadians, as they express it. Finally, you need to plan for long-term medical costs. That's a very interesting episode. A lot of people aren't really aware of how that works. They tend to have some vague sense of, well, the government will take care of me. Not true. So doesn't mean you're going to be cast out onto the street, but you probably have a much higher standard of care for yourself than the government does. And then step 7 is using your home equity wisely. If you're going to use your home equity, we'll have a whole live episode on that. So want to thank our sponsors, the Simple Plan community. Please come join us there, facebook.com/groups/Simple Plan community. You can come and be a part of all that goes on there. We post, we answer questions. We're there to support one another as we go through all these interesting challenges in running our financial lives. Well, let's get right down to it. Whoops. That's not where I want to be. Let's get right down to it. Hate that when that happens. We'll just, oh, that's what that is. Let's just hide that for now. There we go. Okay, here's today's tools. So we want to look at why inflation is such a bear to deal with. So this simple slide gives you an idea of why this is an issue. We can see that we have rates of inflation across the top. Now, interestingly, for about the last 20 years in Canada, we've been wrestling with about 2% inflation on average. It's actually been lower than that until recently. So that still doesn't sound like much, but it still has a significant impact. So let's take a look. We can see here in this table what the impact of inflation is over a period of time. So for example, if we have 4% inflation, that's just slightly above the historical long-term average. If we have that level of inflation, if we start out with $10,000, how much are we going to have in our pockets in purchasing power in the future? Well, at 4%, if we go 1 year forward, we're going to have $9,615. Fast forward to 5 years down the road, if we have had 5 years of 4% inflation, our $10,000 is now only worth about $8,200. And that deteriorates. So when we get to 20 years, 20 years of 4% inflation will erode your $10,000 down to $4,500 worth of purchasing power. And at 4%, after 35 years, so there you've got about the length of someone's retirement, your $10,000 is only going to buy about $2,500 worth of goods in today's dollars. So you can see we face some challenges. Just to give it some additional context, if we look at the purchasing power and the effect of inflation, if we're going to need a retirement income in 20 years and our yearly income, if we're planning on having 20 years of retirement income, so let's say we're 50 years old today, we're going to retire at age 65, and we want to plan for 20 years of retirement income. So let's say at age 65, we're earning $75,000, and we want to replace 70% of our current income. Let's plan for 3% of inflation. So 70% of our income is $52,500. That's what we would need today if we were earning $75,000 and we wanted to retire with 75% of today's income. We would need $52,500. But the amount of money that we're going to need in 35 years, so we're 50 now, retiring at age 65. We're only planning out to age 85, which we know is not a good idea. We should be planning longer than that, but we're keeping it short that way. In 35 years, rather than that $52,000, we're going to need $147,000, $147,728, nearly triple, nearly 3 times the amount when compared with the $52,000 today. So inflation and purchasing power are mortal enemies of your retirement comfort. They are what will put you in the position of feeling like you're running out of money. And one of the things about running out of money in retirement is it doesn't happen just one day. It's something that you're dealing with and going into or experiencing or feeling or dreading for years before you get to the point of running out of money. You don't actually know necessarily when you're going to be out of money, but you have that impending sense. So here's a retirement calculator. In fact, I'll post the location of that in the comments so you can go and try it out for yourself. Yes, you can go and work with this yourself. So let's just say, again, let's say our current income is, well, let's go with that $52,750. And we're projecting out 25 years. Actually, we're going to project out 45 years because let's say we're 50 today and we want to plan out to age 95. So we're going to project out 45 years. All right. Now, let's plan for an inflation rate of 3%. And in fact, you can see that that's not far off because the historical inflation rate from, you can see it in the footnotes down here, for 45 years from 1974 to 2021 is 3.4%. In fact, let's make it 50, then we'll capture the entire 70s in there, and let's see what that is. All right, so 50 years, the 50-year average historical inflation rate in Canada is 3.89%. Now, we wouldn't have thought that likely or possible until recently, but that's what it was. That's what it has been. All right. So we're only planning for an inflation rate of 3%. So the $52,750, the amount of income we think we're going to need in retirement, the income that we're going to need in 50 years at 3% inflation is not 52,000, it's 231,000. And if it was actually that 3.89 in 50 years, so that would be us at age 100, if we're 50 years old today, the amount we need is more than 6 times. We need $350,557 to have the same purchasing power as 52,750. So that seems a challenging way, to look at it. Lacking oxygen in here. Okay, so, but I think it's a little easier to understand when we look at it the other way around. When we put it in today's dollars, what are we going to be able to buy in the future? Well, if we project it in today's dollars at 3% inflation, and let's go back to something more realistic. So let's go to 35 years. 40. Let's go to 40. That's still not long enough. If we're 50, that's still not long enough, but we'll go to 40. Now, over 40 years, inflation's only been 2.59%, or the last 40 years. That's what it's been. So we have 52,750 today, and we want to know what's it going to be like in the future. Well, at 3% inflation, in 40 years, we're only going to have the equivalent of $16,000 of purchasing power, about 1/3, almost exactly 1/3. And even if we only had the historical rate that we've been dealing with at 2.59%, we would still only have the purchasing power of $18,968. Again, approximately 1/3. So you can see that you really must put a plan in place for inflation. We have to put retirement income on an inflation footing, or we will most likely run out of financial purchasing power. Now, we're going to look at how we address that next week, because the antidote to that is twofold. It's guaranteed retirement income and guaranteed retirement income with some inflation protection. So next week, when we look at how you can secure that retirement income for yourself, we're going to take a look at how you're going to be able to combat inflation that way. Now, we've had some comments about, well, okay, this is all well and good, but what's the point? What are we offering here? And the answer to that is what we do is comprehensive long-term retirement planning for people. So if you want to know more about that, we're happy to have a discussion with you. We're not, that's the service we offer. We're not here trying to sell anybody anything. We're just trying to lay out there so that everybody knows what the components of a solid retirement plan are and what they need to look like and what you need to be planning for. in order to retire comfortably and securely. So I want to, if you would like to know more, then I invite you, let's chat. Happy to sit down, have a 15-minute online meeting with anybody. We can do it online or we can do it on the phone. Just to give you an initial idea of what we do, how we might be able to help you, or if we even can help you. What we do isn't for everybody, but I'd be happy to have a chat, find out what you're thinking, answer questions you have, and let you know what we might be able to do for you, or if we're not the right fit, point you in another direction of who might be able to help you. And you can do that by going to, you can see the address there on the screen, go.getthesimpleplan.com/calendar-new. I'll put that up in the comments. And yeah, just book time, no obligation, happy to have a conversation, different people in all sorts of different situations. One of the things I've been working on all this week is working on a few plans for people who are getting close to retirement. All right, let's move that down there. And some people have pensions. We're trying to figure out, okay, having a real pension, which again is mostly the realm now of government workers. And by that I mean people that work for government or government entities. And so there's lots of them. There's healthcare, there's education, all that, as well as direct government employees and others. They have a lot of guaranteed retirement income, but there's a lot of other aspects of their plan that we help them put together. So for example, planning for long-term medical costs, that kind of thing. But just to give you an idea, when we put together one of these plans for people, the benefit that we found in the plan that we've been working on is around $150,000 over the term of their retirement. Just by rearranging some things, not by taking any additional risk. In fact, we're taking some risk, taking a fair bit of risk off the table, and rearranging some of their different components somewhat so that they're optimized for taxes, secured for their retirement income, and against inflation, as well as doing some planning for their long-term estate planning, where we can also save them some significant amounts in tax costs, probate fees, that kind of thing. So again, that's not really a sales pitch. That's not why we're doing this. We're doing this just to make everybody aware of what the structure of a long-term retirement plan looks like, because most people are focused only on accumulation. They're only thinking about how much should I be Their three questions are either how much should I be investing? That's one of it, but that kind of also goes with what am I going to be able to put in? The second question is, what kind of vehicle should I put it in? RSP, tax-free savings account, that kind of thing. And then finally, where should I invest it? Well, of course, with markets so topsy-turvy, and let's see what today's report is on the S&P, just for fun. With markets so topsy-turvy, people think, oh, well, I really need to come up with the big answer on what I'm investing my money in. That's an important question for sure, but it's not the most important question. By far, it's not the most important question. So we help people to get their situations in order based on these 7 steps. So just looking at it, US stock market year to date is now down about 23.5%. Stuff happens. That's how it goes. Now, if you want to go to the 3-year or the 4-year look, it's been, not bad. It's averaged about 12% a year, but it's a little painful right now. And so, we help people understand the strategies to find our ways through that. If we're about to invest now, what should we be doing? That kind of thing. Okay, so we saw on our screen there, if you want to book a time, to get together, you can do that. We want to thank our sponsor, the Simple Plan community. We're going to be brief today. We're just about done here. Go to facebook.com/groups/Simple Plan community to join with us there. We'd be glad to have you, and bring your questions, bring your comments. We just love to talk with everybody and help everyone along the way as we all help one another in our group with our various plans for our money. And then finally, if you want to stay on top of this entire video series, as well as all the live events we do every week, plus anything else we've got coming up, just subscribe to our weekly update in your email inbox. You can go to go.getthesimpleplan.com/subscribe. I'll just put that up on our screen. And we will be happy to put you on the list and start sending that out to you every week. It goes out almost every Friday without fail. Whoops, that was the wrong one. Somehow it's difficult to type and talk at the same time. Okay, so yeah, just go sign up for our newsletter there, go.getthesimpleplan.com/subscribe. Join the rest of us on the list. It goes out every week with tips every week, tools, and links to these videos and other events that are going on. So that's it for this week, short and sweet. We're going to look in greater detail next week at what you can do to deal with inflation and getting that steady stream of income. So thanks very much for joining us. I hope you have a great weekend. I want to wish, because it's that time, I usually avoid these kinds of contextual things, but I want to wish every father out there a happy Father's Day. Fathers are so important in our world and in our lives, and they don't get nearly enough recognition now. So we know that a lot of the ills that are out there, a lot of the struggles that are going on in our culture and in our families could be alleviated if we had more men who were stepping up and being fathers. And so I want to thank all the dads out there that are just doing a great job fighting the good fight, raising their families, loving their children and their spouses. Thanks very much for all that you do, and have a great week. If you want to talk to us, book a time. We'd love to talk to you. Brad Macbeth for the Simple Plan Live. We'll see you next week.